This meeting of the Ware County Board of Elections and Registration will now come to order. Mr. Andy Preston will lead us in prayer, and I'll lead in the pledge.
Dear everybody, we just thank you for the opportunity to serve you, Lord, and I just pray that as we meet, that we'll have the Christ-like attitude and just be with our community, our state, and our nation. In Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Supervisor, will you please call the roll?
Okay, yes, sir. Andy Preston.
Here.
Vernon Chambliss.
Here.
Marion Solomon Gaines could not attend. Ludine Whitfield could not attend. And Chairman Danny Bartlett.
Here.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
You have the agenda in front of you. Does anybody have any changes to the agenda? If not, we'll accept it without objection. So done. Go down to the approval of meeting minutes, number 7. We have a regular meeting on October 14th, election day meeting on November 4th, certification meeting on November 7th, and the election day certification meeting from December 2nd. If there's no objection, we will accept these minutes as written. Seeing none, so done. Mr. Supervisor, you have a report for us?
Yes, sir. Of course, this is going to be a real quick meeting because we have no official business to take care of, no public hearings. But we'll start with our Regional 14 meeting recap. As you know, last week we hosted the Region 14 meeting down the hall. We had about 40 in attendance. We had the chairman of the state election board was down here, gave an update on what's going on with the state and the state election board. We had the director of the Secretary of State's election division. He was here and his staff talking about things to look forward to in the coming year. You know, we had the president of our election association here talking about legislative items to be on the lookout for. This is going to be a tough legislative session dealing with elections. A lot of things that must be done. For example, in law already, they passed a couple years ago that by July 1st, the QR code must be off of the ballots. So the legislature pretty much kicked the can down the road for the last year and a half, and now they're faced with making a decision. So whatever decision they make, it's going to cost, you know, unless they decide to delay the decision and push it back. But they're looking at either buying, you know, getting new equipment, buying ballot printers for all the counties. Everything's going to be very expensive. So we're really keeping an eye on it because Mr. Chairman was there right after he left. You know, they started talking about the cost of counties, and I was really pleased that Commissioner Burse, he stayed pretty much the whole morning, and he had a chance to hear some of the concerns from other smaller counties. Mm-hmm. You know, and they were talking about, you know, smaller counties with limited industrial prospects, jobs. You know, the only way we can afford the increases is to raise taxes. And we need to make sure that people understand that, you know, because if the state do a cost share with the counties, you know, it could be a couple $100,000 for equipment, changing equipment. So that's going to fall right back on the taxpayers of not just Ware County, but smaller counties, you know, like us, or smaller counties than us. So so we're going to really keep an eye on it. I will keep y'all abreast on it, so that way we can not lobby. That way we can contact our legislators and educate them and make sure they understand the financial impact to our voters, our constituents. But with all that being said, our meeting, it was one of the best meetings we've had in the area, the region. It was well attended. We had We had great information. I appreciate all the staff here in the admin building who helped set up everything, and we had great food. We always say in Ware County, when we meet, we eat, and they really enjoyed it. So next one would be held down in Charlton County. And so we set the bar kind of high for other counties, not just because of the hospitality, but this was the first time in our region that we've had the heavyweights, the chairman of the state election board, down here, the director of the, Secretary of State's office for the elections, So normally we don't have, that type of representation all the way down south, because some of them got up at 4 o'clock that morning and drove down. So it's it's not like they don't want to come. It just takes their full day away from their jobs. But we were fortunate, and I'm just grateful to the board. Mr. Chairman was here. I like to say Marion. She came this. She got right around lunchtime, and she stayed until the end. But it was a lot of good information. So, any questions on our regional meeting?
Just out of curiosity, how many counties are in Region 14?
Oh, it's kind of hard for me to remember because we always have other counties attending. I know we have Glenn, Camden, Brantley, Charlton. We had Chatham County that came over. They're not in our region. We had Wayne County not in our region. They came over. Macon is in our region. We had Osceola, Urban County. They came over. Atkinson County, they're not in our region. They came over. So it's kind of hard to remember everyone because we always have we're always centrally located, so it's a lot of times it's easier for them to come on over. And plus, once they heard we were going to have the state officials coming down, we had more people here. But and it's always a great opportunity to network with other counties, and to see what they're doing and share some of the things that we're doing, and we all helping each other out in elections.
I was just curious because you like to say it was so well attended. I thought maybe the region was a little larger, but
not really. It's not really, because a lot of times we go over to Valdosta, to Lowndes County, to their meeting if we have sometimes they have different topics that we can learn from. So we'll go over there and then we'll still participate over here because we're close to Lowndes.
Gotcha.
So like I said, it's all one big network that we try to help each other out. So
appreciate it.
Thank you. On the second item, office updates. We wanted to give you an update. People always think that when we don't have elections, we don't work. But it's the things that we do now that makes for a successful election. And so over the past probably 2 months now, Taylor with Lori, they've been going through the 30,000 plus registration cards in our file. And purging them and going through, making sure that they're put in order. A few years ago, the state went with pretty much a digital, collection of files, voter registration cards. Whenever someone registers, we scan it into the system and it attaches to their profile. But we also, we still maintain the paper. A lot of counties got away from, maintaining the paper because we have a wall full of file cabinets there. But about a year and a half ago, I was telling Laura we need to go ahead and start purging them because, over time, we don't have 30,000 registered voters, but we have about 8,000 probably extra cards, in there, from deaths that weren't moved over to the purge. Now that doesn't affect a person's ability to vote or, anything like that, but that's just a backup, for us, for the office. And I just felt like it was just time for us to go through the files, purge them, make sure that everybody has a card that should have a card because they're already in the system, whether they're deceased, make sure we move them into the right folder in the deceased file. And so the next step is to go through the deceased files, and start purging those because we got some deceased former voters, that were, we still have cards on from 10, 15 years ago, and there's no need to hold on to, cards that long, because we don't have unlimited space. So they're doing that at the moment. Also, the state sent down, as part of their list maintenance process, they sent down through our portal a list. I think we had about 600 people or so that had questionable addresses. Somebody claiming a business address as a residential. I don't mean that that's not legal, because you have some businesses like hotels. You have a lot of the hotel owners, they live in the hotel. But the state doesn't know that. They just know through the post office identification saying this is a business. You need to double check and make sure. But then we have come across people that live in the industrial park, for example. That we know they don't live in they don't live in those places. So we're sending them letters, and this goes out to the Facebook viewers also. If people get letters like this here from us, they have a couple of choices. They can come in, verify that they are living there, like the hotel residents or extended stay places, or they can redo another voter registration card and update to their residential. But if it's a totally business address, they're not allowed to claim that as their voting residence. They have to use their primary residence. And so we're going through that now. And plus, also as a part of that, if someone has 6, 7, 8 people living in one, if the system shows that 6, 7, 8 people living in one address, we have that address sent down to us, and we have to verify that these people, it may be a boarding house, whatever, but we have to make sure. That looks kind of odd when you have, 7, 8 people at one address registered to vote. And so that's part of the purging, making sure that that we don't have people that's just registered at odd places. And so we send them letters. If the post office sends the letter back to us, that's the first step of saying, hey, that person is no longer there, and then they're put on the clock to be put in inactive status, to where they're eventually removed from the system unless they notify us that their address has changed. So that's some of the things that a lot of people don't know, that this is done yearly. This is done quite often, to make sure that we only have people that's legitimately registered to vote, in Georgia. So we're doing our parts. I couldn't imagine what a Savannah would be like, or Macon. If we have 600, they may have 6,000 to go through, especially someone like Atlanta, where you may have, you got a lot of extended stay hotels, that people, pay, weekly, and so they have to verify all those addresses to make sure that those are legitimate registered voters. So that's something that we're working on right now. You have any questions? Okay. In your package is the 2026 qualifying list, qualifying fee resolution. The county passed it last night. We have 2 county commissioners up for election this year, which will be District 1 and District 3. And we have 3 school board districts, 4, 5, and 6, will be up for election, and the solicitor, state court solicitor, will be up for election locally. We only handle the local offices. So the in-law, we have to publicize in January the list of offices and the qualifying fees, so people can prepare for qualifying if they want to run. And so the county passed that resolution last night, and so we will get that in the paper next week. We'll run it for at least a couple weeks to make sure people are aware of the offices that's coming up. I see Miss Deborah back there, and as a part of our resolution, I always put down that the Republican Party handles their own, and I put the second floor of the courthouse. Normally, that's where you have it. So if that's changed, just let me know. Okay, but that's already in the news release. I think I put a copy on your in your package, and it just lists that nonpartisan, Democratic Party, Green Party, whatever, must come through our office because they don't have a party that will qualify, but the Republican Party will qualify their own candidates. Anybody who wants to run for the nonpartisan, for the partisan races that I mentioned before. And so if Ms. Deborah can just let me know that, if it changes, that would be fine. And we'll take care of that at a later date. Any questions on qualifying fees, the resolution on that?
So which of those positions are partisan and which ones are nonpartisan?
The solicitor is partisan, and the county commission, the seats are partisan. School board seats are all nonpartisan.
Okay.
And the nonpartisan seats will qualify through our office. And that'll be March the 2nd through the 6th. Start at 9 a.m. on that Monday, and then it finishes at noon on that Friday. Okay, any more questions? Okay, in your package, I just put the new directory of elected officials for Ware County. It lists everybody that represents Ware County on that list. I updated it with the new city commissioners. That's just for your information. That way you have a list of all of the elected officials for Ware County. Also in your package, I put in the 2026 short Georgia election calendar. It just gives you the dates of the qualifying, just gives you the basic election information. There's a comprehensive calendar out there. If you want to see that, that's fine. I can get, that's like 20 pages. That's mainly for the office, because that lists when deadlines for public notices must be put in there. Things that we have to do in the office, when early voting starts, when it ends, and all that good stuff. So we have a comprehensive calendar that we work with on a daily basis. But what I included in your package is just the short version. It just talks about the different elections, with the primary, the runoff, when the runoff would be held, and the general election in November. So let me know if you have any questions on that. We'd be glad to get you some answers. Then the 2026, our meeting calendar is listed, subject to change, of course, based on our election certification meetings and things like that. But it's always listed as the second Tuesday of the month at 10 a.m. And so that's just for your knowledge there, just so you can post it up on your refrigerator, and you'll know when to be expecting another meeting. And the next meeting is February the 10th. The Gaviota Conference.
Time out.
I'm sorry, excuse me.
Can you turn to that schedule of meetings?
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
You got May 19th and May 16th.
I sure do. That is kind of weird. Okay. Because the election is May 19th, if I recall correctly.
So we can just cross out May
Yes.
16th.
Yes. Thank you for catching that. I will make that correction and send it over to our website.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for catching that. Okay, the Gaviota Conference this year will be in Athens, March the 22nd through the 25th. Staff will be going, Taylor, Laura, and myself. I know Lou Dean, board member Whitfield, wasn't able to go to the Savannah Conference. I'm not sure, if she's going to go to that. We try to at least save one spot for one or two for the board. We may only be able to do one this year because the cost of the Savannah Conference came out of this budget also, and plus with the new staff that we'll be sending extra people, so it may need time for us to adjust our budget, for next year maybe to get back to at least a two-person rotation. But I just wanted you to know about that. I'm going to check with Ms. Whitfield to see if she was planning on going, and then I'll let the chairman know, and we'll talk about it in February. And that information will be coming out soon. I don't have any, any kind of information on the conference yet. They're a little bit slow coming, you may be wondering, because we just had a conference just last summer, which is true, but by law we must do one. We should do one every year, and so when it's a major election year, like presidential year, we don't have one during the presidential year, okay, normally, because just don't have no time from PPP all the way to November. So what they do, they come back the next year and they have one in the spring, one in the fall, to make sure we maintain the statutory requirements to be trained. And so this will be the one meeting for this year, because once we get in March, we'll be nonstop until November. So they're trying to hurry up and try to get one in to take care of the requirements for the conference. Okay. In your package, you have the financial summary for the last couple of months. Let me pull mine up so I can see it. We can talk about it. We're under budget, which is great, because I wasn't too sure if we would be or not, because we spent so much money on conference fees and everything like that. So, but we are under budget. The next major expense that will be coming out would be the May primary, and then possible June runoff. So those are the two major things that will come out of this budget. So we are looking pretty good. You have the November and then the December, which is in December 31st. I don't have the one for January yet. Of course, we're in January, but in the December report, we were 50% of the year, and we've only spent 45% of our monies, and so we're right in line with where we want to be as far as the budget. And we will get some revenue back, because the city, we're working on the invoices now for the city to reimburse us for the portion of the city election in November and the city runoff. They have 100% of that expense with poll workers, advertising, things like that. So they're gonna be receiving an invoice from the county shortly, and that'll be a little bit of revenue to help pay for the poll workers and those expenses that we utilized in December. Any questions on the budget? Okay, Mr. Chairman, that brings us to the end of my report. Any questions on anything that I presented to you today?
No, any questions?
Now, starting next month, we will be going through some decision making, because we're gonna have to decide what we're gonna do for early voting for May. I want to go ahead and decide on that, whether we're gonna use the two locations or not. And we're trying to look at our poll workers and see where we are with that, because it's been a good minute since we've utilized our poll workers. So we got to poll them now to make sure they're still available for this election cycle, for this election year. But so right now we're up in the air about whether we're going to try to do two locations for early voting, but I'll get more information at the February meeting.
Okay. We've come to the end of our agenda. I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting and go into executive session for information purposes only.
For information on litigation.
Information on litigation.
Yes.
Right down your alley.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. You had a motion and a second to move to adjourn and move into executive session for informational purposes on litigation. Is there any comments?
Mr. Chairman, on the back of the agenda, there's a few other items. Do we need to handle those before the
That was just
executive
the
session?
superintendent's
we can do
report,
it
if you have
after
a
we get
report, and your last call.
Yeah, we got last call too, so let's handle that afterwards. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carried. Let's step in that room over there.